Pokemon Emerald holds a special place in my heart because it was the first Pokemon game that I actually purchased at release. Now, because of that little passion in my heart, I decided to go ahead and ruin it. What I'm doing here is I'm playing Pokemon Emerald Kaizo. A Kaizo game is essentially a harder version of the original title. So in Pokemon Emerald Kaizo, there are more trainers. Each trainer has more Pokemon. The Pokemon have harder moves, and their levels are higher. So if that wasn't bad enough, I decided to tack on my own little challenge on top of the Kaizo. Can you beat Pokemon Emerald Kaizo using only a team of normal type Pokemon? So just to clarify, and as I'm going into this with the rules, this is not a Nuzlocke. If I had to do a Nuzlocke of this game, no, just no. This game is insanely difficult, and there's a lot of cheap things that happen along the way. So if I did a Nuzlocke, I would literally lose in the first 30 minutes. However, I am doing a full normal type playthrough. So that means all the Pokemon that I have to have on my team must be normal types. Now I have a little bit of leniency with this. I'm allowing dual types as long as the primary typing is normal. So a good example of that would be the actual first member of my team, Pidgey. Pidgey is a normal flying type. Its main base is normal, but it has a flying type dual. Just like if you think about Blaziken as a fire fighting type, it's mainly a fire type Pokemon with a bit of fighting. So the rules are pretty simple going along with that. I can just go through the game normally, but only with normal type Pokemon, but it's through the Kaizo method. So with those very simple rules out of the way, let's just jump right into it. We start off the game by picking the female character. I go ahead and name her Lily because I name all my female characters Lily. I pick Mudkip as my starter Pokemon just because I thought along the line I'd need a Pokemon for surfing, and having the opponent be a Trico is better for me because I don't want it to be a Swampert because that's water ground, and I don't want Blaziken because that's fire fighting. So it's easier for a normal type to deal with just a grass type rather than a ground or a fighting type. So once we pick up our Mudkip, we go ahead and fight our first battle against Brendan. This is just a simple rival battle. Nothing too different here. Just spam tackle until the Trico dies. After that's all said and done, we go back to Little Root Town to Professor Birch. Go ahead and pick up our Pokedex and Pokeballs. So after we get the Pokeballs from Professor Birch, the first thing we do is we go back up and capture our first normal type Pokemon, which in this case is Pidgey. So I take off Mudkip from our team, put Pidgey on. I named Pidgey Alphin for no particular reason, but I'm treating it like a Nuzlocke and I'm just going to name everyone. So nothing too complicated there. But with that said and done, we move on to Petalburg City. Now Petalburg is pretty simple. All we have to do is do the Wally arc where we help Wally capture his Pokemon, meet up with our dad Norman, and once we met up with him, he tells us to go to Rustboro to fight the first gym in order to get enough gym badges to eventually challenge Norman. On our way to Rustboro, we actually capture our second party member, which is a Snubbull. So of course this is Gen 3, so Snubbull isn't a fairy type yet. And I thought Granbull would be a pretty nice Pokemon to have. It's very strong. So I went with a Snubbull. I named my Snubbull Peony, and I start making my way through Petalburg Woods. Now, there's one thing I haven't mentioned quite yet about this game. You can't heal in battle, which is really obnoxious. You can heal outside of battle, but you can't. There's no healing in battle. No item usage at all. It's only held items. So throughout this playthrough, we're gonna have to run back to the Pokemon Center like after every fight, considering these trainers are pretty insane. They have a lot of Pokemon, and it's not worth using so many healing supplies when I could just rush back to the Pokemon Center. And of course I got the power of Super Speed to do that. But anyway, as we make our way through Petalburg Woods, we run across our first major challenge, I guess I'd say, would be the first team Magma Grunt. Now, I'm a few levels above him right now, which is nice. He starts out with a Magnemite, who immediately tries to paralyze Peony. Peony tries to go for Bite, but then I forgot, oh, it's a Magnemite. So I just roar it out of there, and out comes a Bagon. Peony gets destroyed by the Bagon. So now it's Alphin's turn, who has just evolved into a Pidgeotto, which I guess good timing, to just clean up the rest of the fight. Now this grunt has 5 Pokemon, so it's a bit of a challenge, but we do make it through eventually. After barely scraping by, we were able to make our way out of Petalburg Woods. Now this is very interesting to me. Right before we hit Rustboro, I was just speeding along thinking like, hey, we're not going to fight any other major battles, so I won't have to really pay attention. But lo and behold, we run into Red. I don't know why Red is here, but I'm okay with it. So surprisingly, his team isn't too bad either. He's got a lot of level 9s. He's got an Eevee, a Bulbasaur, a Pikachu, a Charmander, and a Squirrel. Peony has a little bit of a challenge dealing with him, but Alphen just goes ahead and cleans the rest of his Pokemon up, and we move into Rustboro. Now, before I even attempt to fight against the gym leader Roxanne, I go north and clear out the trainers. Now, the north path has a lot of double battles, so you can either go through the double battle like normal, or just skip around and do individual battles, just talking to the trainers. But even after going through this route, I still was having a lot of trouble in the gym, because it was a rock type gym and I don't have any moves that are good against rock types. The best I've got is like Headbutt on my Peony, which has 70 base power. It's a pretty strong move, and like moves like Bite on Peony also. So what I end up having to do is I have to grind Peony up to level 23 in order to evolve her into a Gramble. Now, after that's done, getting through the rest of the gym trainers is a breeze. However, the trouble is when we actually get to Roxanne. Now, Roxanne starts out with her infamous Nose Pass as her first Pokemon, and it's got a tendency to try and paralyze you, so be careful about that. The next Pokemon that comes out is her Anorith, which gets destroyed instantly by Alphen. The next Pokemon is a Lillie, which isn't too bad to be honest, and at this point we have Air Slash at level 23, which, Air Slash is a really good flying type move, because it's base 80 power and has a pretty high chance to flinch. So relying on luck is going to be a key point in this playthrough. Trust me, you're gonna see Air Slash a lot. But now comes her challenge Pokemon, Shuckle. Now this guy is a piece of work to deal with. Now Shuckle's defensive already, but immediately it starts going for curses. So all I can really do is have Alphen click Air Slash and try. It also has a Citrus Berry, so when you get low, it'll just proc its Citrus Berry. It also has Toxic, so all in all, its moves are Curse, Toxic, Rollout, and something else that I'm not sure about. But anyway, Peony is barely able to take care of it, but then out comes Relicanth. Relicanth, I have to crunch, so that isn't too bad. However, her last Pokemon isn't that scary. It's a Lunatone. But unfortunately, we just did not have enough HP remaining, and we white out. The second attempt goes a lot better, and we have just enough HP to survive, and Peony takes out Lunatone with Crunch. After getting the Stone Badge from Roxanne, we head back up north, where we run into our favorite little bird, Pico. There's an Aqua Grunt here with a fair amount of Pokemon, but nothing really difficult, so we take care of her. We get introduced to Mr. Stone, and we get the letter for Steven and the match call navigator thing, Pokenav. The last thing that we do before we leave is we actually fight Brendan, who is an optional boss fight at this point. So Brendan opens up with a Farfetch'd, who gets one shot pretty easily by an Air Slash. He tries to go for Grovyle, but we repeat the same process here. His other Pokemon are Charmander, Plusle, Nidorino, and Totodile, but they all pretty much get destroyed by Alphen without any trouble, and we beat Brendan. The next stop on our adventure is Dewford, so we go ahead with Mr. Briny down on his boat. First thing that we do when we reach Dewford is we have to go through Granite Cave. Oh boy, is Granite Cave a pain. They remade it completely, so now it's more like an ice puzzle than anything. So I couldn't figure out what I was doing in the dark, so I decided to leave for now and just attempt to fight against the second gym leader, Brawly. Now, initially, I was terrified of fighting against Brawly, but then I realized, oh, I have Alphen. Brawly is a fighting type, and I've got normal types. However, going through the gym trainers, Alphen was able to evolve into a Pidgeot. Yeah, I know, we've got level 30 Pokemon hitting the second gym, whereas the gym leader's Pokemon are only like level 17 at this point, but trust me, we may seem over leveled now, but it gets worse. So Brawly opens up with the three Hitmons, Hitmontop, Hitmonlee, and Hitmonchan, who get pretty much destroyed. We're able to body slam the Hitmonlee, Air Slash the Hitmontop, and Air Slash the Hitmonchan. Next up is Meditite, same thing, and then Poliwrath, same thing, Air Slash. And then his Hariyama is his last Pokemon, who also just gets air slashed. So I barely took any damage, which is not what I was thinking was going to happen when I first started this challenge. So now we at least have Flash, so we're able to see a little bit more of the puzzle getting through, and it was pretty bad. I had to look up a guide. It was kind of sad, but it was really hard. All right, and people online said the same thing, so it's not just me. All right, I swear. But anyway, after that, we're able to make our way to Slayport. Now, nothing really out of the ordinary happens in Slayport itself. The only thing to mention is I capture our next party member, Kecleon. I wanted to go with Kecleon because I knew it was a special defense wall, and we don't have any defensive type normal types yet, and there's not too many of those that exist. The other options that were there were like Delcatty and Lickitung, and I didn't want to go. Lickitung would have been alright. Delcatty is awful though. So I name my Kecleon Monka, and I do a little bit of grinding to get Monka up to the same sort of level. Our next big fight is the infamous fight against Brendan on the bridge. Now, normally in vanilla, this fight is really difficult, but since I'm so damn over leveled, we just sweep through his team. So we make our way to Marvel and run into Wally. Now, this fight is a meme and a half. Alright, so normally you bat against Wally and his Ralts. His Ralts is like level 16, level 17, nothing too bad. It's just like saying that he's improving slowly as a trainer. However, this man has a level 70 Ralts. What the heck? Like, what are you doing, dude? So it looked like it was terrifying, but Monka at this point has Shadow Ball. So I just spam Shadow Ball and I'm able to beat the Ralts because Ralts got paralyzed and it just wasn't a challenge despite being level 70. Our next major challenge is the fight against Watson, and this one was also a doozy. Watson leads off with the Jolteon, who also has a tendency to paralyze. We lead off with Kecleon and try and just paralyze him also. Thankfully, Jolteon's not terribly defensive, but it still does a little chunk of damage to our boy Monka. He brings out a Lantern and an Ampharos, which don't give me too much trouble. Now, Peony is my sort of ace in the hole for this battle, because Monka isn't physically strong, so it can't really do much damage, and of course Alphen is part flying, so he gets kind of one shot. So what I do is I just attempt the fight multiple times, and at this point our boy Peony has hit level 40. So thankfully, through just trying multiple times through the fight, we get through his last Pokemon, Manectric and Raichu, and we beat Watson. We pick up our bike and move our way north. Actually, before we go north, I almost forgot to mention, so a couple of things you want to do in Marvel is you want to pick up Rock Smash from one of the houses, and then you also want to go to Verdanturf, which is the town on the left path, in order to go through the tunnel, and you can break a rock there in order to get strength, which you'll need later on. It saves having to backtrack. But yeah, after that we just head north, and we fight the Windstreak family, which I was expecting to be a really hard challenge because I just thought that there's some bullshit way that they could have made the Windstreak family harder. But it wasn't too bad. They were just level 26 Pokemon, so nothing terrible. The most annoying part about this area is there's just a lot of trainers. So the amount of backtracking we have to do is insane because while their levels aren't as high as ours, a lot of their Pokemon have really broken moves like Earthquake, Shadow Ball, high damage moves that just can destroy a Pokemon. Because like normally by this time you'd have Pokemon with Ember, but now you've got Flamethrower, so it's just harder to get through. There's also, this route is also scattered with Team Magma grunts, so that's something to look out for. And a lot of these guys have like 6 Pokemon, so it's no fun. After a lot of time, we eventually make our way to Fall Arbor Town. And on our way to Fall Arbor Town, we actually pick up our 4th member, Teddiursa, who evolves one level later because we catch it at level 30. So I name my Teddiursa Lilac because I like the flower lilac. Big deal. And I train Lilac up a bit. Not too much, but just enough to get by. We have to make our way south to Meteor Falls in order to rescue Professor Cosmo, who's being captured by both Team Aqua and Team Magma. But I think it's Team Magma, and then Team Aqua comes in. But yeah. Next up, actually, we capture our 5th party member, Zangoose, and we name it Delta. We get into Meteor Falls and we actually run into our final party member. So we catch everything in this sort of area. We capture a Loudred, And we name it Echo, because again, I'm creative. But we do a little bit of leveling just to get these 3 sort of on our level. But honestly, thinking back on it, I really should have just grinded them out to the other guys' level. But I got lazy and I was just like, oh, I'll just let the trainers do it. After we rescue Professor Cosmo, our next destination is Mount Chimney. Now, we make our way through the grunts. Most of them aren't too bad. I was speeding through this fight because I didn't realize it was an admin fight, but we fight against Tabitha, who really wasn't too bad. Had a lot of scary Pokemon, but I had Peony around, who was able to superpower a lot of these Pokemon, and Alphen just air slashed everything else to death, so wasn't too bad. Maxie, however, oh, you are the bane of my existence, sir. So, Maxie's Pokemon are level 38. In retrospect, like, if you want to compare him to every other Pokemon, I've got level 37s to about 50 at this point. His first Pokemon's Registeel. Just get that through your mind real quick. I didn't realize that they were going to give trainers or, important fights legendary Pokemon. This is BS. I'm calling it BS. Once you get Registeel to enough HP, Registeel just explode. So try and throw out a Pokemon that's a fodder to you. Next up is Crobat, which isn't too bad, but he does end up poisoning our Monka. Dusclops isn't too bad of a challenge. After that, we pretty much get whited out, and we have to attempt a few more tries before we can actually beat. His other Pokemon are Claydol and Houndoom, and with enough tries, we eventually beat him. But it does take a lot of brain power and willpower. We buy a bunch of lava cookies, like all good Samaritans should do, and we make our way to Larvidge Town. I had a lot of trouble against the trainers in Flannery's area. A lot of them outsped my team, which was the biggest issue. And there was a lot of solar beaming going on. Overheating, too. The other thing I haven't mentioned, or I guess I forgot to mention, is... So, Pokemon moves that normally lower stats, like Superpower, Overheat, Draco Meteor, stuff like that. Instead of lowering stats, they now do recoil damage. So, Overheat will no longer lower special attack harshly. It'll just do you recoil damage. So an Overheat in the sun on repeat, not fun. Overheats, nah. But anyway, we make our way to Flannery. Now Flannery has a Ninetales, a Blaziken, an Arcanine, a Typhlosion, a Charizard. So a lot of scary fire types. Ninetales is good for setting things up. Blaziken's just terrifying, but thankfully we have Alphen. Arcanine will cut our attack. Typhlosion's just strong overall. And then Charizard is, Charizard. So on our first attempt, we almost beat her, but the Charizard takes us out at the end. We do a little bit more grinding, and thankfully on this attempt, we're able to beat Flannery. Oh yeah, I kind of forgot she had a cast form too. That's important to remember. Cast form is scary. Weather Ball in the sun, not good. But cast form gets 2 shots, so it's not too bad. After beating Flannery, we get the Go-Go Goggles, which we use to sort of beat a few trainers in the desert area, because getting levels is pretty important. But there weren't that many trainers, so... Anyway, our next objective is we have enough badges to go back to Norman now, so we go back to Petalburg City. Now let me just tell you guys something. This gym hurt. This is the point in the game where things just get super painful. Before it was manageable, but now this is just, oof, this hurts. The names have been removed on these rooms. So normally, when you fight against Norman, each trainer has one level 27 Pokemon, and it's based off of like speed, attack, defense, and they'll use an X item to give them more attack or defense each turn. That's not that challenging. This time, however, there are more categories. There's a speed room, there's confuse room, strength room, there's a stall room. I do not recommend you ever touching the stall room, because there is a Shuckle with Toxic, Curse, Rest, and Rollout. So just take my word for it, do not go in that room. With enough willpower, we eventually make our way to Norman and begin our fight against him. Now, this hurt. This hurt so bad. So Norman has 6 Pokemon, as you'd expect, but it's in a double battle format. Now he opens with a Slacking and an Espeon. The Espeon has Skill Swap, so The Espeon uses skill swap on the Slacking in order to give Espeon Truant, and Slacking doesn't have Truant anymore. So Slacking, with its insane power, is able to attack every single turn. And his Pokemon are level 48, whereas mine are still just barely above that. My strongest is 56. So you see how we started in the beginning where we were super over leveled, but now it's going downhill because less grinding was needed. There's more trainers, but we have more Pokemon. I'd probably do better if I had like one level like 90 Pokemon compared to all my others. On the first attempt, we almost do beat Norman, but the Snorlax sort of destroys us. I do a bit more grinding and make my second attempt. I also go through some of the other rooms in the gym just to get a bit more experience. That's pretty much, this little gym takes me like an hour to do. So my new strategy was to just focus on Slacking off the bat and just leave Espeon alone. Now, Echo has Hyper Beam, so Hyper Beam's pretty good, so I just use that. I have to rely on Flinch hacks a lot too. So next up brings out a Kangaskhan, which is strong but weak, so taking it out isn't too bad. In retrospect, I shouldn't have left Espeon alive so long on my second attempt, because that did screw me over in the end. So instead, on my third attempt, I took out the Espeon first, and I just relied on brute forcing it through, but that didn't work. So on my final attempt, I work on the Slacking first, then deal with the Espeon, then the Kangaskhan, then the Swellow. Lastly, I deal with the Tauros, and I leave the Snorlax for last. The reason I leave the Snorlax for last is, sure, it can bulk up and it can rest and curse, but it really doesn't seem to want to do any damage to me. So at the end, I have a few Pokemon alive still. So I try and Rock Smash. I try and do whatever I can. And I'm able to slowly chip away the Snorlax and beat Norman finally. After that's all said and done, we get access to Surf, which makes this game kind of a bit annoying, because that means I have to drop off one of my party members for Mudkip. So I choose to use to drop off Alphin, because Alphin's like 20 levels above some of my other Pokemon. With Surf, we're able to make our way towards the next area. The next area is Route 119, which is a pretty large area, and there's going to be a lot of me having to go back to Marvel to heal up, just because of how many damn trainers they've added. A very interesting thing happens. Well, so once we're in the middle of Route 119, there's the Mimic Circle. And this Mimic Circle is just a bunch of people that like try and copy how you're moving, or like move in a different pattern. So they'll move along or against with you. So they all have level 100 Pokemon. However, they only have one Pokemon, and it's basically, it's a stage 1 or 2 bug type. So Wurmple, Weedle, Caterpie, Kakuna, Metapod, that type of thing. So honestly, not that difficult to deal with. However, what's really cool is there are 6 Lucky Eggs scattered throughout that area. Lucky Eggs increase the XP gain on your Pokemon by 1.5 times. So that's going to really help us out through the rest of this. So grinding won't be quite as hard. Another thing that's important as you're going through this route, you want to make sure you bring the Acro Bike, because there's a point where you need the Acro Bike with how the layout's changed. So our next major battle is in the Weather Institute. We fight against Aqua Admin Shelby, who has taken the scientists in the Weather Institute hostage. Now, going into this fight, I didn't think it was going to be too bad, because she started out with a level 48 Milotic. Nothing higher level than what Norman had. So I'm able to use Delta, who is like really good at this point, with Crush Claw, to deal with the Milotic. A lot of the other Pokemon aren't difficult, like Medicham, Lapras, Dragonite's a little difficult, but we're able to take care of it. Hypno can be a little annoying, but Monka's here. And then it's time. I tisked for a reason. He's back. Shuckle. Now, I'm not joking when I say this Shuckle wiped me out the first time. It's the same strategy, but because you can't heal in battle, there's only a small amount of things that you can do about Toxic. So it has Rest, Protect, Toxic, and Curse. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? You can swap out Pokemon to sort of alleviate the poison damage, but honestly, what I have to rely on is a couple of really strong hits by Alphin. who thankfully I'm able to bring along because there was a PC in the Weather Institute, so I could swap out Mudkip for Alfin. Anyway, we get Cast Form, which I was kind of tempted to use because Monka was falling off a little, but I decided against it because I didn't want to grind up a level 25. Our next fight is against Brendan, our, what was it, third fight, I think? No, fourth. The second was optional. Okay. The first attempt went absolutely awfully for me. So, it's raining, right? Brendan decided to make his team scattered around Thunder. Thunder in rain has 100% accuracy. And on the first attempt, almost every single Pokemon of mine got paralyzed. And it just went really poorly. The second attempt, though, went much better. We were able to beat his fully evolved team of level 50s and 49s pretty easily on the second attempt. With that said and done, we were able to make our way to Fortree City. We were able to run into Steven, who gives us the Devon scope, so we're able to see hidden items so we can get into the gym. Hidden items being Kecleons. This gym, again, getting through the trainers wasn't too bad. After each trainer, I almost lost my entire party, but I got through it. Like, almost losing your entire party is still good. It's not dying. Now, throughout this whole series, I whited out a lot, so I didn't have much money. I bought what I could. Pokeballs were pretty cheap, but I bought what I could and just made my way through as best as I could. So I could have like Moo Moo Milks and other healing items that I could use so I didn't have to go back to the Pokemon Center every 2 seconds. Slowly but surely, we make our way to Winona and we have yet another March. So again, it's another double battle, and this one is scarier than the one before. The reason I say it's scarier than Norman, it's not the levels. I mean, the levels are pretty high. Their Pokemon are 55 and above, and mine, aren't quite there yet. Oh, at least Lilac isn't. She has all 3 legendary birds, Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres. So after going through the ringer a few times and losing horribly against her team, I sort of developed a strategy after grinding a little. So what I did first was I started out with Ursaring and Kecleon. Kecleon took the brunt of a lot of the enemy's attacks. I was able to live both a Sky attack and an Ancient Power from Aerodactyl and Zapdos, thanks to Color Chain. I gave Lilac the Sylph Scarf that we got earlier in the game, and it did a lot of damage with Double Edge to Zapdos, almost enough to kill it in one shot. After we take out Zapdos, we leave Aerodactyl alone. Aerodactyl stays alive for a while, because Aerodactyl doesn't do a lot of damage to us, even though I'm scared of his Ancient Power. But so after we take out the Zapdos, next is Crobat, who isn't that strong, so we just Crush Claw it. Articuno gives us some problems, and I don't want to leave Alfin in against Articuno, so I try and leave Alfin as my last Pokemon. So I use Ursaring and Zangoose to deal with him. So the last part of this fight was terrifying, right? So Moltres came in. I defeated Moltres with Alfin, but Alfin got knocked out too. So it was down to just Gramble versus Aerodactyl and Flygon, his last Pokemon. Now, Flygon gets critted by a Body Slam. Now, in this game, in the double battle formula, when you attack and you kill something, the next Pokemon it'll attack whatever comes out next. So in this example, I double targeted Moltres, but Alfin hit first. So then Peony hit second and killed the Flygon with a crit. So Flygon's down, so it's just down to Aerodactyl versus Gramble. And it looked terrifying, but I had a lot of HP left. I had more HP than the Aerodactyl did. So I sort of sat there for a moment thinking like, oh god, what do I do? This is so close. This is so close. And I didn't want to have to fight again because this was my 6th attempt, I believe. So I go for Superpower, and I almost knock it out, but I barely don't do enough damage. I think he only has 1 HP. Aerodactyl goes for Ancient Power, and I am left with, I'm in the red, but I am alive. And I knock it out with Crunch, and we have beat Winona, and we have our 6th gym badge. And oh boy, am I in pain at this point. I'm in pain. So as much as this game is cool, what they did here just annoyed the living crap out of me. So we make our way through the next route. Or was it Route 121? Route 120? Something like that. And we try and make our way into Lily Cove. Now, the first thing that we have to do here is go to Mount Pyre, but I wanted to go to Lily Cove to, be able to fly there, because we have Fly now, and to be able to heal at the Pokemon Center there. However, there's a couple of Team Aqua Grunts that have decided to block off the entrance to Lily Cove, so we can't get in. So every time that we die, we have to go from Moss Deep all the way back to Mount Pyre, and it's a long trek. So I try my hardest just to use whatever healing items I can, or just to walk back myself. But sometimes I'm like, alright, I'll just take the death. I don't want to walk that much. So getting through Mount Pyre was a absolute struggle. Because there were just so many trainers. It took me a full hour just to get through Mount Pyre. It was insane. Right before we reach the very, very peak of Mount Pyre, we fight against another Aqua admin, Matt. Now, by this point, I got Delta and Alphen, who are both in their 70s. Everyone else is in their 60s, except for Lilac, who I literally have not touched since Moss Deep, pretty much. Oh, not Moss Deep, Fortree. I always get the names mixed up. So anyway, Matt has a Whale Lord who goes down to a couple of Crush Claws, a Machamp who gets 1 shot, an Executor who gets 2 shot, but that was enough to bring Alphen down into the red. So next up is a Dragonite who takes out my Exploud, but I bring the Dragonite into the red, and that's enough for Monka to come in and finish it up. Gyarados is next, and I use a bit of Air Slash just to do a little bit of damage, and I didn't want to get the Intimidate drop on anyone else. Peony comes out and cleans it up. And finally, I have to deal with a Slacking, which I actually just one-shot with Delta, so I'm pretty happy at that point. And then after we do that, we get the Magma Emblem from Mount Pyre. With that Magma Emblem in hand, we are able to make our way back over to Larveridge Town and head back up north. Now, there'll be an opening if you just walk towards the north of Larveridge Town, the Magma Emblem will react and it will open up a path. Now in here, it's just pain at this point. It's just pain. So I'm going through this place, right? I'm getting my ass handed to me by grunts left and right. I'm barely scraping by. There are so many grunts. So I have to come back out, grind my Pokemon a little bit. Essentially, I'm grinding Kecleon and Ursaring to get up with the rest of the party. But it's bad. The trainers were awful, but they didn't give me like an insane amount of trouble. Like they were difficult and I was crying, but no, the difficulty didn't just come from them. It came from the admins. So we only have one admin here, but we have Courtney, Magma Admin Courtney, who has... So in this cave, there's sun rays, permanent drought, permanent sunshine, whatever. So, and Magma has fire types, so kind of screwed me over here. So she leads off with a Charizard and then goes into a Venusaur. Oh, I don't know why she has a Venusaur. Oh, I guess for Solar Beam. She also has a Castform, and then she has a Regirock, which, much like the Registeel from before, just blows up. Thankfully, though, I'm able to... the next Pokemon that comes out is a Salamence, and I literally crit it 4 times in a row. It was insane. I was crying with how fucking funny that was. I'm like, dude, how do I get 4 flinches in a row? With that, I'm able to just beat her Kangaskhan, her last Pokemon, and move our way onto the last area. So in the last area, in Vanilla, normally you have Maxie, who's trying to activate Groudon. After that, he just leaves. You don't have to fight him or anything. However, they switched it here. Oh god, this is where it all goes to hell. Everything just goes down the drain. So, Maxie has a Tyranitar, Executor, Flygon, Gengar, Arcanine, and something else. Now, the reason I say something else is you'll find out. You'll find out. So, Tyranitar was no problem at all. I just started with Peony, and I was able to just superpower it. I had to get lucky that I didn't get hit by Fire Blast from Tyranitar, but it missed its Fire Blast, and I took it out in one shot with superpower. Next up was the Executor, and I tried to start it with Alphen, as Alphen was like my real only chance of killing it. But Alphen doesn't do enough damage, even at like level 78. Does not do enough damage to this level 66 Executor. And I get one shot by Psychic, with Executor still alive. So that means I have to use another Pokemon. In this case, I think I use Zangoose. Clean it up, but Zangoose still takes damage anyway. Next up is Flygon, who is a team effort of Echo and Lilac. By this time, on every single attempt that I reach, I have 1 or 2 Pokemon left. on the third Pokemon that comes out from Maxi. Next up is Gengar, and Gengar just destroys everyone. And if I'm able to make it past Gengar, I have to fight an Arcanine, who I have nothing for. You guys have to understand something real quick for me. I literally tried this fight 24 times or so. Oh no, that's exaggerating a little. It was about like 10 tries. 10 tries was about right. This fight was just, I couldn't. It was the point in the attempt where I was like, all right, this isn't fun anymore. This is just becoming a chore. It's not a challenge. There's a line between a challenge and just not fun for me. A challenge just makes me think more, makes me have to do more. But if it's to the point where it's just like, oh, I need to grind more levels to beat the Pokemon, I don't want to be stuck grinding for 3 hours just to get past this fight. And I swear to God, I need to have my Pokemon be like level 80 to beat this guy, because it's just insane. So at this point, I'm sorry guys, but I decided to call it quits here. Now, call me a pussy or whatever, but this just, when a challenge gets to the point where it's just not fun anymore, there's no point in me doing it. And I still agree with the decision that I made a week ago when I finished recording this was a good decision. Now, for the question from the beginning, can you beat Pokemon Emerald Kaizo with a team of only normal Pokemon? It's possible, but for me, no. Now, as I said, this challenge started out really, really fun. I'm like, oh, this is an interesting idea. Maybe I should have done this with like a better team, because normal types are alright, but there's just not a lot of things they're good against. Everything does normal damage. There's no super effective moves besides from a lot of Pokemon had Brick Break and Shadow Ball, but that was about it, and it's not Stab, so nothing has Stab besides from Alphin with like Air Slash. So it was just at that point for me where it's just like, alright, this ain't fun anymore. So if you guys think like, hey, you should go back and try this again, if you guys really want me to, I can go ahead and give you like a bonus part where I go back to this in the future. But until then, I'm gonna call it quits. So that challenge was an ass. Next one's gonna be a lot better, trust me guys. It'll be fun. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name has been Meteor Kaiser, and I'll see you all in the next one. But until then, as always, peace.